I wanted to just point you to a one group that I like that's working towards solutions. It's called Drawdown 2020. It's got many ideas, and it is about decarbonizing essentially. And they look at each sector. So you can go to this website on Drawdown. They have a book called Drawdown as well. They call it the 100% solution or whatever. And you can think of those in terms of sectors. Each sector has particular solutions to reduce carbon footprint, be renewable, reduce other types of environmental degradation, and so on. So you have electricity, food, agriculture, and land use. Land change is a very broad term for anything where we convert one type of land to another. It includes converting forests to agriculture or deforestation, urbanization, whatever else, building dams, etc. Industries, what are the solutions for them? Health and education, what is the impact of climate on health? Very broad field, and there are plenty of evidences that health is seriously affected by climate. Many contagious diseases, chronic diseases, and so on. Simplest way to think may be that warmer temperatures not only increase metabolic rates, but they favor many pathogens and microbes that are not good for us, or our body doesn't react well to them. And then if you have extreme events and floods and droughts and other things, then these microbes get distributed differently by those things as well. So it's a combination of warming and changes in the rainfall patterns and heat waves and so on. Buildings, energy consumptions by buildings is one of the biggest contributors to total energy use and emissions. Transportation, obviously a big contributor. A country like India, for example, domestic travel continues to increase year by year. Of course, COVID has brought air travel to a grounding halt, and we don't know what will happen in the coming years. But you can be sure that once the vaccine evolves and the COVID disappears, we will be back to normal sometime. For example, the 1918 flu that killed 50 million people, it's not clear it changed anything at this point, right? It happened, it was traumatic, huge impacts, but by this time the society has moved on. So it's just a matter of time scale by which time community will forget about it. And look about and worry about carbon sources and sinks. Those are all kind of the sources. Land sinks, so forestation. There's something called REDD, reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation of forests. Coastal ocean sinks, the blue carbons that we talked about, mangrove forests, wetlands, coral reefs, salt marshes, etc. And engineered sinks. There are many ideas like accelerated weathering, for example. Weathering is a geologic timescale phenomena which is taking CO2 in the air, mixing with the rainfall and producing carbonic acid, which falls on the ground and weathers all the rocks, and then washes that bicarbonates and carbonates into the ocean, right? This is a geologic time scale, means it's a very slow rate, million-year time scales. But you can accelerate it by grounding up rocks and spreading them, and because the ground up rock can weather faster than a big block of rock, and so on. But for everything, you have to make sure that it's carbon neutral. In other words, you cannot do accelerated weathering if the energy you're putting in to grounding up the rocks and transporting it and distributing it and putting it somewhere is producing more carbon than the accelerated weathering would take down. Okay. Then there are other things. For example, is it useful to think sector by sector? Electricity production right now takes let's say hydroelectric, so it takes water. Food agriculture is all about water as well. Pretty much 80% of the water, freshwater use is for irrigation. Okay? 80% of the water use is for irrigation, which means there is a big competition between electricity production by hydroelectric and agriculture, and of course for domestic use. So food, water, and energy, they are connected, and it's called a nexus. So you cannot manage one sector at a time. Remember the ecosystem-based management we talked about for the ocean, where we said simply catching one type of fish can destroy the ecosystem, but ecosystem-based management may allow us to manage the whole system better. Can that work when we think about food, water, energy as one system and manage them together? Those are the kind of ideas. So Project Drawdown, you can click on it and find suggested solutions, implementable solutions, and they do a good job about economic cost, return on investments, scalability, potential for sequestering carbon, potential for reducing emissions, and so on and so forth. So that's one example. There are many other groups, as I mentioned before, but you can follow up on whatever you can find on Google and whatever your personal interests may be. Okay?